What scares you as an adult that didn't bother you as a kid? Signs of aging. When you're a kid, getting older means new and exciting changes. When you're in your 30s plus, it means far less fun things. I don't really sweat the cosmetic ones. I just try to think about the first lines to show up on my face were the ones you get from laughing. That feels right to me. The tendons in my legs not bouncing back from a walk or run. That I could do without. I don't mind the grey hairs. That's just showing I have some experience. But if those hairs start to run away, I'm going to be a whole lot less okay with it. I'm starting to get the "you've done the same job for 20 years" soreness. Those don't disappear as easily as before. I bought a house a couple years ago. Literally everything scares me now. It's raining, probably gonna flood the basement. Windy, trees gonna fall on the house. Weird smell, probably an electrical fire. Leave the house for literally 5 minutes, obviously going to explode due to a gas leak. Other people's driving. I can barely sit through a car ride with my dad now without grabbing the "oh shit" bar. I felt that for a long time, after driving for many years. But I recently realized I just don't trust other people's judgments on what to do in situations. Yup, I volunteer to drive most times, because I truly just only trust myself. And something about me just wanting myself in the driver's shit if an accident was about to happen. I can barely concentrate on anything when I'm in the passenger seat. Needing help or advice. I'm a grown adult now, 34, and my mom and dad have since passed on. When I run into a problem with an appliance or a home repair, or need help with a recipe, it always takes me a minute to remember they aren't here anymore. Really sucks having no one to lean on when things get hard. My mom used to just give me $100 without question when I'd be hard up for money. No more bank of mom. If I run out of money now, I'm just stuck until payday. Edit. Thank you all for your kind words and advice. I don't know if this will help or not, but there's a YouTube channel where it's just a dad recording how to do things like basic plumbing or electrical. I'm only 19, but he has helped me out a couple of times when I couldn't find anyone nearby that had the answers. Head injuries. As a kid, I thought broken bones were the big thing to worry about, because I could visualize what that was. I had no sense for the severity of brain injuries. As an adult, protecting my noggin is my #1 injury concern. Because the human machine don't work with a damaged processor. Everything that you are and respect is contained in this tiny dome. One false move and you can become a monster to your peers, or a burden to your loved ones. It's pretty scary to consider that. This is actually something I've dealt with to an extent. I busted my head in a weird ice skating incident. Pretty badly concussed. The people close to me around that time said I completely changed as a person following that. Lost a lot of friends. I only have very faint memories from before, and rely on others to jog my memory a bit. I consider myself lucky to not be worse, but I can't help but wonder how I'd react if I could somehow meet myself before that. Also, I didn't have ADHD before, but I do now. That's fun to mayo. Roller coasters. I used to ride them all summer long because I had a Six Flags summer pass. I went a few years ago with my younger sister. It wasn't fun anymore. I just kept feeling like I was going to die. I ended up holding purses and keeping my feet on the ground. I never understood why my mom would just wait for me, but I get it now. Edit. Thanks for the awards. I had no fear of U-Hauls until I rented a U-Haul. I filled out all of my information online and they gave me the keys to a 27-foot box truck. No training. No anything. They'll just let anyone take these massive vehicles and drive them off the lot. Give them a wide berth. I reserved a small U-Haul. I think the 10 feet, a few weeks in advance. Get there. Sorry, we don't have any of those. We only have 26-foot trucks left. Fuck. I was driving a 2-door coupe and had never driven anything bigger than a small SUV. I had to drive it through 2 cities. Scared the crap out of me the entire time. Honestly, just getting older. I'm only 36, but I just don't want to be an older person. I fear my daughter is already starting to see me that way, but I do everything I can to fight it. One disc in my back is permanently injured from a car wreck 12 years ago. One knee is bad from playing with a nephew 14 years ago. I want to be the strong hero my daughter needs as she grows up, but I fear these will really catch up to me in the coming years. Edit. Thank you to everyone for the kind words and reminding me that I'll be my daughter's hero no matter what, squishy or strong. Edit 2. Okay, normally I hate edits, but wanted to add this. At bedtime I talked to her about how I love that she says I'm her hero. But sometimes I feel old, and would she still feel the same when I'm not as strong as I'm now? She dead told me, as long as you're strong enough to swing the small sledgehammer, because even I can do that, and I'm just a kid. I love that little girl. I was going to say getting older also. Almost 30 but pulling grey hair out every once in a while, and thinking about how even 10 years ago I was more or less a kid without a care in the world, makes me realize how fast time goes by. Man, my beard is more grey than not at this point, and the thinning hair on my head is so discouraging. I took the plunge and shaved my head early in the COVID lockdown, since I wouldn't have to go out in public if I didn't like it, and I hated it. What's worse is it came back thinner. Talk about a punch to the gut. Anything related to going to the hospital. When I was a kid, I was always in the emergency room with a deep cut or broken bone. Now that I realize it isn't as free as I thought it was when I was a kid, I'll make any excuse to not go to the hospital. Case in point, my wife, before we were married, went to the ER with severe abdominal pains and found out she had an infection in her gallbladder, so they removed it. Her hospital bill, because she went out of network and had an ER visit, was over $80. 000. Meanwhile, I probably would have just died because I would have crunched down 100 Imodium before visiting the hospital. Shit, I'm a doctor and I avoid the hospital at all costs. Luckily I can do a lot of the repairs myself, but I almost tore my brother a new one when he went to the ER for stitches. Ridiculously overpriced, I should say as well. Let's say you go to the ER for stitches. Your bill will probably be $1,500. You know how much the staff who actually cared for you will see of that? Probably about $300 split between all the providers you come face to face with. It's bananas. Anesthesia. As a kid, I was led to believe that it was something magical that happened to you when you got your tonsils out, and then afterwards, you could eat all the ice cream you wanted. Now that I've had it as an adult and know that there's always a possibility it could go horribly wrong, I get really antsy and scared just thinking about it. Owning a home. I'm only slightly exaggerating when I say that I wake up every day fully expecting some new and expensive catastrophe to unfold. Deep water. I learned to swim in it by essentially jumping into a pool on holiday as all the other kids were in the pool and didn't want to be left out. Now for some reason, if I'm in water and it reaches my chest, I'm struck by an absolute rising sense of dread. My breathing gets shallow and I feel so uneasy and upset I have to get into shallower water to be calm again. I came here to say this. My mom used to call me a water baby because I loved water so much. Now I'm older and I've learned what sort of creatures actually live in the sea. The sheer depth of it. How many ways you can die in it. It's just plain terrifying. I used to love flying as a kid. Then, when I was late teen/young adult, I was on a particularly turbulent flight for hours over the ocean and thought we were going to crash. 4 years after that, I couldn't fly without anxiety. I didn't want to look out the window. I'd close my eyes and mutter through turbulence, etc. Then, inexplicably, I chose a career as a flyer in the Air Force. That helped to get me over my fear of flying pretty well. Yep, similar boat. Flown at least a couple times a year since I was a little kid and had no problem flying, even alone. Even hit a turbulent flight to Tokyo about 10 years ago that didn't faze me long term. Then when I was about 26 or 27 I was on an island hopper type plane during a thunderstorm. The flight, which was coming from a very tiny airport, had originally been grounded, but somehow we got approval to fly about a half hour later, and I legit thought I was going to die that day. That storm tossed us around like we were a toy. There were only 3 other passengers on the plane, a little old lady who slept through the whole thing, and a couple of Air Force guys who chatted pleasantly with each other like nothing was happening. It was really surreal. Had some flight anxiety for a year or so after that. I was crazy on bicycles. When I was a kid, I'd jump anything, anywhere, on a little tiny bike, crashing spectacularly like we all did in the 70s. Now, I have a bike with suspension that rivals a motocross bike. And this very bike can handle obstacles that off-road trucks might have issues with. And I ride around never leaving the earth. With a helmet. And enough other stuff on I can literally play football. Oh god yes. I used to do insane jumps out of gullers into intersections of the neighborhood I grew up in. There was hardly ever traffic. But even the idea that I could get hit by a car never crossed my mind. Now, if there's a car driving within 10 feet of me, I can barely hold it together. I just stopped riding bikes a couple of years ago. Financial emergency 100%. When you're a kid you don't think about things like this. You could be off of work due to injury for 2 months and lose everything you worked hard for, even if you were doing everything right financially. The reality of how fleeting life is, and I don't mean in the pitch live life to the fullest. I mean in the way that life really does pass quickly. I'm 3 years into college, and I still feel like I graduated high school last year. Every now and then someone will mention the new class graduating, and I have no idea who they are. Or when people I graduated with come into my work and it hits me, I haven't seen them in 3 years. When I was younger, I couldn't wait to grow up, to live on my own. Travel, see the world, have a bunch of friends, have a real job. Now life is real, and it's passing quick. And realities are starting to set in that, in order to do all the things I want to do while I'm young, I better have an excellent paying job. Because time is passing and it isn't waiting for me. I'm 3 years into college too, and I feel the same way. Also, everyone couldn't wait to finish school and expected the time after to be so awesome. For me, these 3 years after school were the most mediocre years in my life. Phone calls. I used to call people all the time as a kid. Now I'm terrified of them and get anxiety attacks every time I have to call a non-family member. I'm slowly learning to manage by writing everything down I want to say so I don't go blank. Performance anxiety. I was in theater as a kid/teen, was in sports tournaments, enjoyed class presentations, and even did some public speaking, and never had any issue getting up in front of people. Even when I would mess up occasionally in front of an audience it didn't bother me. Then in college a switch flipped. I did a handful of variety shows in college, and used to perform the national anthem in college at our university sports games. I still remember the first time I ever experienced performance anxiety. I was about 21, and going to perform the national anthem at a volleyball game, and I felt it, but it didn't impact my performance. Later that year, I was singing a solo tune in a variety show, and my music cut out, and it flipped me out so bad that I had to stop the performance, which was a gamma changer. I'd never had an issue adhering to the show must go on, even when things go wrong. And for the first time in my life, my final presentation of university racked my nerves so bad that it impacted my ability to speak and concentrate so bad that I thought I'd fail the presentation. Especially because that professor had seen successful presentations from me before. Nowadays I get flipped out even giving casual presentations in front of my small company. I'd do variety show performance again though. Driving. Each time I go out onto the road I get more and more scared to go back. I'm only 19. How is 90% of this species so reckless that they can manage to scare a 19-year-old off the road? The reason I pay so much extra for insurance is because I'm supposed to be the one doing that. But all middle-aged senior citizens that think they own every inch of the road are beating me to it. I completely agree. People are absolutely crazy on the roads. I already have anxiety. Driving is hard enough as it is without Bob Blowhard speeding along the road with reckless abandon missing your car by inches. And the superiority. They all think that since they're older and have been driving for longer they're better at it. Actually, you're worse because nobody has corrected you on your bad habits. They're all too scared to get in your car or confront you about it. They all seem to be of the dangerous mindset that they're the only one they should be worrying about on the road and screw everyone else. When I was 16, shortly after I got my first car, I was in a horrible car accident. I was crossing a road and a car came flying over the hill on the road I was crossing and T-boned me. In court, their insurance lawyer tried to use my age against me, saying I wasn't paying attention due to my inexperience. The jury didn't buy it. The experienced dude was the one driving like 60 miles per hour on a 40 miles per hour road with an advised 30 miles per hour over that hill. Thankfully, the guy was dead honest and admitted he was speeding and didn't slow down at the hill, which made that kind of a blind intersection. Thankfully, the powers that be put a stupid light at that intersection not too long after that. I gather I wasn't the only one that this happened to. If you enjoy watching these videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video. Thanks.